Welcome to Women Being Loved, a weekly podcast and upcoming book series to help you and other women 35 and beyond attract deep, passionate, lasting love while honoring your authentic self. I'm Tadra, your host. Hello, lovelies. I'm so happy to be back with you on the podcast. I am going to give one big fat all-inclusive welcome, whether you are new or returning. I am glad that you are here. Today, I want to share a really fun story with you. It is from my upcoming book of love stories called Love Will Find You, and it's all true stories from women who met the love of their lives at 35 or later. Before we jump into that, though, I just want to say I do not have my usual podcast studio. And so I'm literally, y'all, working with 2 shoeboxes, a mason jar, a microphone, and my computer. So we're going to make things happen, right? Even if we got a hodgepodge it. If you don't know, I am nomadic, so I don't have a home base, so I kind of have to work with what I have. I am literally in someone's closet right now with all of those things trying to get this done. So have some grace if it doesn't sound amazing. So back to our story of Pam. So Pam met the man of her dreams at 52. Pam had never been married, and she did not meet the love of her life on a dating app. Now, there is a reason why I said that. It is not to throw shade at people who met on dating apps, because a big percentage of people I know who are blissfully happy met on dating apps. So I have nothing against those. But there are several people in my book who met through apps. And so someone recently said to me on Facebook, did every single couple meet on a dating app? If I'm not into dating apps, does that mean I won't meet anyone? Oh, goodness, no. There are plenty of stories in my upcoming book of people who did not meet on dating apps and are very, very happy. They met in all kinds of really fun ways. In today's story, Pam had a little help from her friends. So let's jump in and get yourself a little cup of tea or something if you want. Stop the recording, come back, settle in. It's story time. I'm going to read to you. We should find you someone. Who can I fix you up with? My friend Cindy and I were leaving yoga class while she mulled over my single status. As a never-married woman in my early 50s, I was used to this recurring theme: Pam needs a guy. Cindy, along with my other well-meaning friends, were on a mission to find a middle-aged Prince Charming to sweep me off my feet. I didn't mind their dating assistance, especially with my recent move from Sydney to Maitland, a city with a fraction of the population of the capital. Statistically speaking, there were now less opportunities for serendipity. Although I'd done my necessary inner work to free myself from the all-consuming need for a relationship, I was still hoping to one day experience love. I know, Cindy said. Tom, I think he could be a good possibility. As we tossed our mats in the boot of my car, she asked, "Do you mind older men?" I didn't. I dated a small selection of men, some older, some younger. I hadn't found a suitable partner in any of them, but age wasn't a factor. In my early 20s, my sparse romantic relationships always had something that didn't feel right. Few shared interests, conflicting values, incompatible plans for the future. But in each case, I stayed longer than I should have because I thought, this is it. This is what a relationship is. I didn't necessarily expect to be happy. In my 30s, if I went on one date with a guy and it felt off, I avoided going any further. I don't regret that. I believe in paying attention to my intuition, but as I grew older, with no significant relationship on the horizon, the question lingered in my mind. Am I ever going to meet someone? I didn't want to end up alone. A few days after yoga class, Cindy and I, along with 4 other friends, boarded the train to Sydney to catch a performance of Mamma Mia. Tucked in our seats, Cindy leaned over and whispered, "Andrew said he thinks Tom's a really good guy, and he could see you two getting along." Andrew, Cindy's husband, was pivotal to Operation Tom and Pam. Andrew and Tom were workmates. At Cindy's request, Andrew had snapped a quick phone photo of his buddy and sent it over for my approval. I liked Tom's face. He seemed kind. I'd later learned that Tom had no idea why Andrew had taken his photo. "Here's Tom's number," Cindy said as she texted it to my phone. "Reach out to him. You never know." 3 days later, I texted Tom a short, sweet hi and explained who I was. Andrew had, by then, told him I was a date candidate chosen by Cindy. Tom answered my text quickly. "Hi, can I ring you back tomorrow? I'm with my accountant about to leave for a business trip to Sydney." Tom called me the next day and we chatted for a bit, mostly niceties from two industrious people trying to carve out time to meet. On the phone, we flipped through our loaded calendars, searching for a 60-minute opening. "Tuesday?" I asked. "No, I'll be back in Sydney for a conference." "Wednesday," he suggested. I have several client meetings that day. We finally landed on a sliver of time on Thursday, 3 weeks away. We agreed to meet at a pub halfway between our homes for a midday drink, a light commitment. Our matchmaking friends had promised to send us photos of each other early on, but somehow only I'd gotten a photo of Tom. He had no idea what I looked like, and interestingly enough, he wasn't bothered by that. Walking into the pub, I saw him sitting at the bar. His relaxed energy and warm smile were immediate draws. I sat next to him, ordered a glass of wine, and settled in. Tom did most of the talking initially, telling me key points about his life. He's a dad with 3 adult children. He married in his early 20s, then divorced. His partner of many years died of cancer. It wasn't the guarded conversation of typical first dates. This man, it seemed to me, was putting his cards on the table, saying, "You should know that this is who I am." No pretense. Within 5 minutes, I was sure. Tom was the reason my other relationships hadn't worked. He was my person. He felt like home. As the conversation widened to other topics, we laughed and talked like we were old friends reconnecting. We finished our midday drinks and stared at each other, both thinking the same thing. I don't want this to end. "Do you want to get lunch?" Tom asked. We moved from the bar to a table, ordered a meal, and talked for 3 hours until the restaurant was closing around us in preparation for the dinner crowd. "I'd like to get coffee," Tom said. The implication was that I should come too. We walked around the neighborhood searching for a coffee shop, but it was 3 p.m. and they were all closed. Determined to keep the date going, we chose a McDonald's for 2 black coffees and more conversation. Cindy texted to ask how the date had gone. When I didn't respond, her curiosity got the better of her. My phone rang. Her name popped up on the screen. "Hi, Cindy." "Hi! How'd the date go?" "We're actually still together," I answered, looking over at Tom. "I doubt I'm going to make it to yoga tonight." At 6 p.m., Tom asked if I was hungry again. I was. We popped next door to the Bowling Club Bistro for pepperoni pizza and beers. That lasted another 3 hours. A date I'd initially scheduled for 60 minutes and a glass of wine had extended to 9 hours. When Tom dropped me back at my car, he asked what I was doing the following weekend. I was attending my niece's 30th birthday, but I suggested Tom and I see each other the following weekend. Our second date was at the Gosford Classic Car Museum. Tom and I discovered we have a mutual love of exotic automobiles. We meandered through the museum's 11,000 square meters, enjoying everything from the legacy Lamborghinis to the 1960s-era Ford Mustangs. A pristine 1959 pink Cadillac Coupe de Ville with white leather trim was my favorite. I'm partial to pink. So Tom ushered me into the gift shop and bought me a souvenir Cadillac emblem. For our third date, Tom picked me up and drove to Dudley Beach. I'd heard locals admire its golden sand dunes, turquoise water, and fossilized forests, but I'd never made the time to visit. Sitting with our toes in the sand, watching the waves retreat, Tom and I wondered aloud if we could construct a future together. Our questions were practical ponderings about work, family, and living arrangements. From the start of this relationship, I didn't have butterflies and lightheaded moments. Instead, I had assurance and belonging, and I knew whatever we had to rearrange to be together, it would be worth it. Later, as the sun set, we packed up to go to dinner, leaving the beach by climbing atop the dunes. The soft sand gave way underneath, and I lost my footing. Tom instinctively reached for me. It was the first time we held hands. We didn't let go until the drive back to Maitland. Tom arrived at my place straight from the airport. He'd been away on a holiday he booked before we met, a 2-week tour through Europe. By this time, he and I had been dating solidly for 10 months, and things were going beautifully. "Did you get it?" I asked when Tom pulled out a small jewelry box and held it out. I'd asked him to pick up a Pandora charm for my favorite bracelet. I'd been collecting them for years and had several of the international charms, but I lacked Spain and Portugal, which could only be purchased in their respective countries. Opening the box, I smiled as I lifted the tiny yellow and red heart charm, a nod to the flag of Spain. It was gorgeous. "Thank you." I couldn't wait to add it to my collection, but Tom wasn't done yet. He pulled out a second box. Oh, I was getting both charms from my list. I opened the second box. Inside, there was a silver heart-shaped charm with a red heart embedded inside. Portugal was scripted across the front. Before I could say anything, Tom pulled out a third box. "You didn't have to get me 3 charms," I protested. "Open it," he said, placing the box in my palm. Had he bought me back a teeny Eiffel Tower from the city of love? Opening the lid, I gasped. Instead of a charm, I was seeing an engagement ring. Tom dropped to one knee, looked up at me, and said, "Will you marry me?" Overwhelmed and shocked, I burst into tears. I managed to, "Yes," but Tom didn't understand me through my sobs. He rose and tucked me into his arms. When I pulled myself together, he kneeled again. "Is that a yes?" he asked. "Yes, yes, yes." We moved in together a month later and began planning the wedding for June 2020. The pandemic had other ideas. We rescheduled for April 2021. A restored barn was our chapel for the ceremony and the reception. Together, Tom and I decorated it with hanging ferns and cafe lights streaming from the overhead beams. Leaning into the Western theme, we, along with our wedding party, wore cowboy boots as we walked down the aisle. Cindy, our matchmaker, was our officiant, and Andrew, her husband, was one of Tom's groomsmen. 3 years in, and Tom has often told me he knew I was the one within 5 minutes of our first date, sitting at the pub. It's remarkable that we both had such calm assurance back then. Now, it's the mundane, everyday moments with Tom where I find the most joy. When he washes and folds the laundry, or when he puts my phone on the charge at night so it's ready for me the next morning, I feel loved. When we do things together that we both enjoy, like riding our bikes or visiting wineries, I marvel at how in sync we are. Except in entertainment. Tom enjoys watching half of New York under gunfire within 5 minutes of the opening credits. I can't stomach that. I'm a connoisseur of animated films. I'm a Disney girl, through and through. The movies, the theme parks. Tom has indulged me through the years, watching Frozen and Moana, as well as the classics. He's sailed the seas with me and other Disney enthusiasts on themed cruises. Does he have an affinity for talking mice or magic kingdoms? No, he doesn't. But I do, and Tom loves me. Isn't that adorable? I'm so happy for these two. So Pam was 52 when she met Tom, and he was 64. And the two of them are living together, happily married in New South Wales, Australia. My book, Love Will Find You, has stories from all over the world. I hope that you enjoy it. It should be out early next year. In the meantime, if you would like to support this podcast financially, I would be so incredibly grateful. I will leave all of the details in the show notes. My website is womenbeingloved.com, and you can also sign up for my newsletter there and get notice of when the book is coming out and some special things that I have planned for all the people on my newsletter list. Until then, I will see you soon. I'm hoping to be a little more settled so I can get back to recording more regularly. In the meantime, love you, and I will talk to you soon.